our celebrity featured speaker who, like I said, deals with sponsors all the time because she does such amazing work in the world. So if you do not know Lainie Strouse, let me introduce you to this incredible award-winning TV film producer strategist that has created many events. She is an incredible producer of events, TV, film, nonprofit, people in the royal, people that are royal, leaders, politicians, you name it. She has created incredible events and has created experiences and built community. Like Brett said, lots of profit and nonprofit, has raised over $20 million for those profits and nonprofits. And so, you know, if you're someone that saw General Hospital, you could have seen you could have seen Lainie on ABC's General Hospital, or Two Guys and a Girl, or Wicked Wicked Games. So I this face may look familiar, but Lainie, welcome so much to the 262 event.
Hi, everybody. So great to be here. And as I always say, I want Deb to introduce me because she does the best introductions.
Thank you so much. Well, wow, right? I mean, the more I get to know you, the more I get to love you. And I think that's the most incredible things. But when you get put together with somebody, I call it a biz ship that turns into a friendship, right? And you know, when you meet like-minded people. So anyways, we would love to spend some time with you today and talk a little bit more. I think it's always interesting when what people end up doing for a living. I don't know if you, when you were on General Hospital, thought you would be like putting events on for royalty and being a producer. And I know that you've had some incredible events that you've done that we'll talk about, but how does any of us end up where we are? But nevertheless, how did you end up in this career?
Well, life is a journey. I'm not exactly sure what my job is anymore. I started out in one thing, and then you end up sort of, more like a fixer. Like people just call you and say, I need this, and then you end up on that path. But yeah, I started out kind of more with the goal of being in front of the camera. And, as you've probably heard from the years in the Me Too movement, being in the entertainment industry as a young woman is probably not the most mentally healthy place to be. And that's an understatement. And as you can imagine going into it, and kind of sets you up in this mindset of, you need to be what you think other people want you to be and who you think you should be. And I came to a place in my life where I said, this was supposed to be fun for me. And I had gotten to a place where I said, I really need more control over my life because, when you're in front of the camera, if you don't, most big actors you'll see produce and direct and do these other things, because if you're just sitting there waiting for somebody to call you and give you the opportunities or give you the life that you want, that's not really a mentally healthy place to be. So, as we all know from this and all the amazing women on this and men on this podcast, the real the real way to happiness in your life is having control and being able to make choices and creating the life that you want. So for me, that's kind of how I started on that path. I'd always sort of had to work and produced events and worked on film festivals very early in my career. And I really wanted to understand the process. So I became an associate producer. I went to a conservatory in Manhattan. I did theater, live, all kinds of live things. But I recognized that if I wanted the career that I wanted to have and to be someone who had control over my life, that I needed to take control and do that. I couldn't sit home waiting for someone else to help me. So, and I'm not a trust fund person, unfortunately, so to work. And so I needed flexible work. So I would produce events, and I partnered with people early on for the Young Hollywood Awards when I was like 19 years old. So I have been doing this for my entire life in terms of either producing events, getting involved in events, and I put myself through school. So sometimes I'd be working till 3 o'clock in the morning at clubs and doing events, and there would be things that would go into Miami where I would be part of creating the events. So yeah, that's kind of how it happened. I mean, life is a journey for all of us. I don't think we ever plan all the twists and turns and the windy road that we all get on, but here we are.
Here we are, and here we are. So I know that some of the events that you put on, you can't say, because that's just kind of how that is until they announce them. Some of your clients are on a very high private list, but can you share with us some of the events that you are allowed to talk about that you either
Sure.
presently are doing or have done?
Yeah, I helped Ellen DeGeneres launch the Ellen Fund, which we did right before COVID, unfortunately, but I'm glad at least we got that in. I also did Hilarity for Charity for Seth Rogen, also right before COVID. So these events are really high profile. Obviously, there's a lot of celebrities involved. But what I always say to people is it's not just the event in terms of, how do you make it look pretty? It's an experience. And no matter what type of event you're doing, I always kind of try to guide people to the place of what's the result you hope to get out of it? What is it that you want to achieve through the event? Because it's not just about, is it pretty? Because anyone can kind of pick out a pretty centerpiece and pick a cool place. But ultimately, if you're going to invest money into doing an event and you're trying to raise money or you're trying to launch something or whatever the goal is for the event, who's going to be in the room? What kind of experiences can you create that make the person more connected to the cause, make people more connected to whatever it is that you're looking to do, whether it's your brand, whether it's to launch your wine, whether it's to launch your book, whether it's for a nonprofit. Really think about who you want in that room and create an experience that they will really enjoy and that is special to them. And I also do this on the film and television side. It's like we have to remember we are creating entertainment and we're telling a story. What is it I want people to leave with at the end of that film or that project? Um, but also, even if I'm pitching funders and I have to go in there and talk to funders, why should they want to fund the project I have? Or what is it that I can offer to someone that is unique and special, that is worthy of that? So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's really important that you think about what it is that you want to achieve and not just how you want it to look. So if I have an event where I have Ellen DeGeneres, and she's bringing huge stars, Leonardo DiCaprio's there, and the heads of studios, and Julia Roberts and Jennifer Aniston, and I have to think, oh my God, how am I going to impress these people? What is it that I can bring to the table that's going to be special and unique? Obviously, the music, the performers, we're very lucky to have Bruno Mars perform, which is not your everyday thing, do a 45-minute concert, and Chris Martin and people like that. But also, what is it that I can do to add value to that? How am I going to get people to care about this cause of endangered species when there's so many great causes? So, as I had mentioned to you before, we created a VR experience where you could literally put on goggles and walk through the forest and see the gorillas in person because they are so human and they look like people in gorilla suits and they have babies and they give them piggyback rides and they breastfeed. And when you see them, you go, oh my God, they're like human beings and they share 98% DNA with humans. So it's like it's not a great thing for humans if that animal goes extinct, right? Because they're very close to a human being. So I think that makes people feel more connected with your cause. So, with what we're doing here, creating a community and making us feel more connected, it's really special. And, whatever we do, we want to create that emotional connection and that opportunity for people to feel like they're part of that community.
Thank you for sharing that because you know what, it was really interesting. And yeah, lucky me, yeah, lucky me. So Lainie is going to be supporting an event that's getting put together. And that was the first question she asked me. Now, I'm not going to, I've put on a lot of events and I had never thought of that. I had never really thought of, I think that when you think about events, I was one of the first one I was like, okay, where and location and all of that. And we've been to great events and we want events and how can we do them differently? And oh, that was a cocktail party, we should do that. And oh, it was black tie, that was kind of cool. And oh, kind of this, without thinking really, it's more not just strategically, but what is the end result you want them to feel? I think even when you're planning like a large event, like some of us have planned weddings or engagement parties or what have you, it's like, what is it that you want people to walk away with and remember? And like I said, I
Yeah.
know you were talking about you needed to build a connection between these gorillas in Rwanda and an experience here where these people get asked all the time to give money and they've been to some pretty cool stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, these are people who've been to the Oscars, they've been to every island, everything. So so how can I add something to it that makes it special and connects them? And, the fact of the matter is that there's a difference between being, an event coordinator and a producer in that respect. Because if you're hiring someone to make it look pretty, and it's no disrespect, I do all of it. I mean, it's, I will work on an event with someone, and if they just want me to make it look pretty, great. That's fun. I get to I get to decorate and design it. That's lovely. But when you're trying to raise millions of dollars for a cause, and I'm proud to say we raised $5 million. We built a building in Rwanda by the Diane Fossey Foundation, and we were able to the team there taught women how to actually build, and had the first women construction workers who were working these places, and made a sustainable building that you can go tour now. So there's a tangible thing. And when you've goals to raise millions and millions of dollars, you really have to have a strategy around that, because everyone's being asked for money, right? All the people who everyone knows are wealthy are constantly being asked to give to every charity, every cause, every political thing. So why should they give to you? So I honestly believe that, giving people a reason to give, helping them feel more connected, giving them very easy, tangible things that they know they can fund. Even if it's $100, to say $100 feeds this family for a week, you can feel like your contribution has value. So I always like to really tie it in and make it special and meaningful for people, rather than it be just, oh, throw $100 on this pile. It's like, what is my $100 doing?
Yeah.
So I know it feels good to me to know that I'm doing something good when I give. So I always like to think if I'm talking to someone just like me.
Thank you so much for that. And I know that all of us out there that have planned events and have large events, whether it's business or personal, there is a lot of, shall I say, plate spinning. And you are in certain circles where you have to have, there's also sometimes different rules to, whether it's country or a culture. How do you keep it together? Like, what do you do to keep your stress, your happiness, your joy, like what's on the inside?
Well, I mean, you're assuming I keep it together, but yeah. I mean, the goal for me, honestly, is whoever I'm working with is that we're achieving what they want to achieve. And when I am dealing with other cultures, whatever level they are, obviously there are times when I have to honestly ask. I don't know everything. I don't pretend to know everything. So I do my research. And if I'm dealing with cultures where they might be very different from what I'm used to, I ask, and usually they have a handler or an assistant or somebody, and I say, look, I really want to be respectful. What are the things I need to know working with this culture? If there's cultures where you don't want to shake hands, it's considered rude, you want to bow, you want to do this, or, do I need to have my shoulders covered? Do I need to wear knee length or longer? Whatever it is, I do ask if it's something that I'm not familiar with, because even if you Google it on the internet, you want to make sure that those kinds of things are honored, and that even on the internet there's kind of different advice. So I like to ask people in the know, what is it, is there anything I need to know with this culture? Because you can go to jail in certain cultures, doing something that you don't realize is offensive. So it's in all our best interest we do the research.
Good idea. And I remember we were sharing that to ask, right? Because again, Google cannot always necessarily be a trusted source of how, what, why, where.
And even ChatGPT, sometimes there's misinformation fed into these things. So I always like to go to the source whenever possible. And I think if you come from a place of respect, and sort of, especially with royalty, you want them to initiate any contact in terms of touch or anything like that. You don't want to be the person who does it, because you're not supposed to reach out and touch them or hug them, even if you are a hugger. So just kind of like coming from a place of respect and understanding, every culture has their unique things. Even other English speaking cultures, we tend to think, oh, they speak English like me, so they're just like me. It's good to kind of know what is respectful. And I think just asking that is a great place to start, because it shows you're coming from a place of respect.
Right. Is there some things, like in terms of when planning events, is there some things that you can highlight? I know that people are, and we will, and we do events, and what makes an event? I mean, yes, the intention at the end, but what makes the event? What are some of the things that you've done to implement to make an event either smoother or more interesting? I know when I said to you, oh, I'd love to do a fashion show. And you're like, this show, this show, this show, or this show. I'm like, whoa, that's right. There's so many different ways to think of just about the elements. What makes a good
Yeah, I
event?
mean, first I always start with who do you want at the event? You know, who are you planning to invite? And people tend to think of that sort of last because they think it's related to invitations only, like who's my guest list. So they'll kind of put that together thinking, oh, I just need to have that out 6 weeks before the event. But I kind of like, I always ask people, like, who are you planning to have at this? Because if you're having 20-year-olds or you're having, you know, young professionals or you're having mature professionals or you want a mix of them or you want, you know, 6-year-old millionaires, whatever it is, if you have a specific group in mind, and it might be a variety of people, but I like to have things that cross over and kind of people will enjoy because I'm not going to have a heavy metal rock band if I want, you know, a group of people who I don't think are going to really enjoy that. You don't take the people who go to the symphony and put them in front of a Metallica concert. So, I mean, you could, who knows, maybe that would be really fun. Um, but you know, you want to create something that reflects the people and you want to have something that makes an event special. So, you know, and I think if you're coming from this mindset of giving your guests a positive experience, because a lot of times when people do events, especially when you're raising money, they tend to come at it from a place of really heavy-handed, like I'm just going to hit them up and ask them for donations 20 times and I'm really going to, you know, hit them. I don't I don't like to feel like I'm nickel and diming people, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So as much as I can make them feel like they're getting something for their ticket that they already purchased and include as much, like if I can get donated liquor and I can get things sponsored so that the guest has already paid to be there. So you don't want to feel like every 2 feet you're asking them for more money or you're asking them for stuff. And I always ask people to keep all their speeches to 2 minutes. And why 2 minutes? Because everybody has short attention spans, and the more concise that you are, the more people will pay attention to what you have to say. And honestly, the shorter you tell people to speak, the more concise and thoughtful they are with the time that they have. And even if they spread, you're still okay. But you'll be surprised. You give people 5 minutes, and that feels like a long time if somebody isn't being, you know, thoughtful with the words they're choosing. And they might spread to 6, 10, and, you know, and then people are like, you know, nobody has the attention span. So, whatever, usually when you're asking for things or whether you're presenting, you can say it in 2 minutes if you're concise. And it forces people to really be thoughtful about the words they're choosing. And it keeps the show moving. It really makes it much better for the guests.
Very cool. I have a couple of other like more personal questions, but just finishing off a little bit on events, is there anything that you've seen at an event that just kind of completely blew you away? Or, and it doesn't have to be grand, it could be something really simple or some details or a must have that people just don't realize that's super important to have at an event. People think it's all about the music, but maybe it's all about the person welcoming somebody or taking their jacket off. Like, can you just give us maybe and what have you seen at events, Miss Lainie Strouse?
Oh, I mean, I feel like I've seen so much, but you know, one thing that I really think is super important that people overlook, believe it or not, it's not glamorous, it's parking. And it sounds crazy, but I went, you know, I've been to events and it's something, you know, as a guest as well, but like I went to one and they didn't have enough parking and you could not attend the event. There was a line out the door. I was trying to pull in and literally they ran out of parking. And I was in a black tie gown, like completely done. Drove around for 45 minutes. It was an area in LA where they don't let you park on the street. You needed a permit. I drove around for 45 minutes. I couldn't go in. And I've had other events where people are leaving and it take them 2 hours to get their car out of LA, and everyone was bitching and moaning and pissed and stuff like that. And so often people don't think about those kind of things. And remember, that's your first experience in and your first experience out and your last experience out, I should say. So yeah, you know, those are like things that sometimes people overlook. So, and it seems silly, but it, you know, think about when you go to an event, if you can't get there, and you can't leave, you know, you get annoyed. And some people have babysitters to get home to or another place to be. And if you can't get your car in 2 hours, you're going to be You're
Yeah.
going to be
Yeah.
annoyed.
You're not going to be, you're going to have a different feeling, that intention
Exactly.
that you wanted them to feel. They're
Even
going to
if you
feel
had a great
something.
time. Yeah, even if
Yeah,
you
even
had a
if you had
great
a great
time
time. Yeah.
and then you walk out and you're like, God, I can't even get my car. And
Yeah.
yeah, it leaves people with a bad taste. So, I mean, those kind of things, functional things are important. Checking in when you check in, make sure that your list is thorough and that you have people who know what you're doing and you don't skimp on the equipment or, the software that people can check in. Like, however you're doing it, make sure that it's easy for people to get in and out. You
Right.
don't want to have a situation where people are in a line and they're around the corner and then everybody's like, oh my God. Like, just those functional things, if those work smoothly, people will have a much better experience. Like, get them in easily, get them out easily, that kind of stuff.
All right. I know we had that conversation about volunteers, right? When people are like, oh, I've got my friends can volunteer. You're like, is your friend a good volunteer? Do they know how to do that?
Well, I always ask people, and there's a nice way of saying it because, I am appreciative when people want to give of their time, but I always say to them, like, what's your personality like? And I will ask them, and also, what do you think you're best at? Because if you're shy, like, don't get, I've had people put the shy person on like raffle tickets and then you sell none, and then the organization doesn't raise anything. Or you have people who are very argumentative working at like the counter and they start getting into fights with guests. I mean, I've literally had volunteers who get in a fight with a celebrity over a gift bag, and I'm not exaggerating, because I like literally said to her, I said, okay, I don't want to give them out just yet because we're going to do the auction. But one person had to leave and he was a celebrity. His wife had just given birth and she wanted to breastfeed. I'm giving you all the dirt. Okay. So she was leaving, and literally this woman was having a fight with having a fight with this celebrity. I mean, a celebrity from like, major feature films over a gift bag that was free that he would get anyway, because I just said, let's just, wait to give these out. But I was hoping there'd be some common sense. But this is the other thing I've learned is common sense should not be called common sense because it's not so common. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I could fill 3 hours with,
You feel 3 hours.
with the ridiculous things
All
that I've
right.
seen and we've done, but I won't bore you to tears because
No, no, no.
I just told everybody we need to be brief and I'm running on. So go
No, no,
ahead.
no, you're not running on, but I do. We just did a podcast. You can come and see the podcast. But we're
There's
about to do another.
endless.
I know we're gonna
Stuff
have to
like
do
that.
another one where it just starts with like "Let's go," and we will bleep the names. It's gonna be a bleep fun, what I call laugh from the belly kind of show.
Yeah, we'll do the blind items thing.
I'm going to completely switch gears as we're kind of wrapping up. You do so much from a nonprofit and a profit standpoint. You do a lot for St. Jude. You have raised money. You have had people in your home. You're one of the biggest hearted women that I know. You put a lot of time and money into making sure things go right and people feel good on all scales, even though we're probably like, who was that celebrity? But what's one of the most important things for you?
Honestly, for me, I know it sounds crazy, but to me, I like to work on things that I personally feel connected to and value, because I put a lot of myself into it. So I have learned to be like more selective about kind of who I work with and why. Um, and I think that goes back to all women, right? We need to get back to our own value, our own worth, how and how we treat ourselves and how we value our time, and to work on things that are really valuable and meaningful, whatever project it is that I really honestly feel connected to it. Because what I do is not a 9 to 5 job. Sometimes I'm working till 3 in the morning because I have to get something right, and people will make changes on me last minute. And anyone who's ever, I mean, I'm sure all of you have had some kind of event. I don't care if it's a birthday party or wedding, but there's always those people who like, that day they're like, oh, sorry, can I bring 20 people? Or, oh no, I can't come, or blah, blah, blah. And you've like revolved your whole thing around them. Um, and for me, I work with some celebrities and sometimes it's out of their hands. And some of the things are like, they had a bad media day that day and they suddenly don't want to do something that they were supposed to do. I've had people cancel on me 5 minutes before an event. I'm sitting here scrambling to change the visual, like as people are walking in. I mean, again, stories, but ultimately when I'm proud of the cause and the thing, not everything goes perfect. No matter how much you plan, the saying, you plan, God laughs. It's like, you can plan everything in the world. I try to think ahead and think of every scenario I can come up with. I would have never come up with COVID in a million years. I would have never come up with, sometimes it's, the one time it rained in June in California ever, and it's on your day. So, you have to just learn to be flexible and to think on your feet, problem solve. And I think we talked about this, but honestly, take your ego out of it, as much as possible, because it's not about you. And 99% of the time when somebody's upset about something going on, it really is their own frustration or something they're dealing with in their life. And so I've literally had somebody yell in my face, and I literally had to kind of just pause and let them finish and run their course and get that emotion out and just say, okay, well, here's what we can do. And here's how I solved this problem. And here's how, here's what we can do. What would you prefer? Or I hear what you're saying. How can I help you? How do we fix this? Because honestly, when we focus on the emotion coming at us, we will respond defensively. And so the more we can remove our egos out of it and recognize it's not about us, it's about the moment, their emotion, their frustration. I mean, I've had everything you can think of happen where I was flying in somebody from the East Coast, Hurricane Sandy happened and they couldn't come, and I had to literally reroute an award to them and get a video crew to do a video mess. I mean, you name it, it's happened. So as much, you try to come up with every scenario you can. And then other than that, you just throw your hands up in the air and say, okay, here we go. We'll do the best we can. And, we can debrief later. If there's something that pops up, you focus on problem solving and not finger pointing. So in a nutshell, that's the best advice I can have. And in any career, I don't care if it's your boss telling you to, have this report done in an hour and it takes 6 months, calmly discuss it and, discuss real, what is a realistic timeline, and say, okay, well, I can either do this fast or correctly. Here's, what are your expectations? Let me see, this is what I can honestly do, because if you promise the world and don't deliver it, it's not going to help you. It's not going to help them. Just be really transparent and honest about what you can do. I see so many people promising things that they know they can't deliver, and it's not helpful to anyone.
Well said. I literally wrote it down, like taking a deep breath and, not pointing a finger. And what did you say? You said something really powerful there. I wrote it down. Oh, problem solving, not finger pointing. I wrote it down because I was
Yeah.
listening to you. Yeah, I think that's fantastic in the world of events, because
And honestly, these things have, no matter what you're working on, I think they really help you, because so often people let their emotions and their frustrations get the better of them.
mm,
And the more you are the calm one, the better it is for you and your career. And people really appreciate that. And when you're working with high level people, it's really important, because you have to understand, like, people blame them and call them divas and things like that, but they are a brand. They're putting their name out there. So if I make a mistake and it makes them look bad, that's going to harm them. So I do understand where they're coming from in terms of, really wanting the best and excellence and expecting that, because that's their reputation. So it's really important that I deliver at the level that they want to be, shown at. It's important to their reputation, and they're trusting me with that. So I take that very, very strongly.
wow.